again, I'm not here with a tin cup for Hal Steinbrenner and his family. You want to make a case he should sell the team because now if you're going to own a team, you need to be Guggenheim, Rogers, Steve Cohen, Rich. I got it. But even within that, I don't think the Yankees are not getting to the Canyon of Heroes because of the last contract they didn't sign.
Hello and welcome to the Pinstripe Post. My name is Ryan Sampson, the host and producer of the show. That's the star of the show, Joel Sherman. Today is Monday, December 8th. The official winter meetings have started, and Joel Sherman is down there in Orlando there reporting from the winter meetings, and we're excited today to get to talk to him after a little bit of a break and just get the latest on what the heck's going on with the New York Yankees here on today's show. But before we get to any of that, Joel Sherman, how are you today, sir?
I'm in the happiest place on earth. It's Disney World here, right? Orlando. I bet you I don't step outside this biosphere before I leave on Thursday. So they might as well be in Newark for all that's going to happen. But and also, the winter meetings used to be very much the convention of our business. You saw a lot of people, and between cell phones and where executives don't want to be seen, and taped and potentially whatever, they hide. It's hard to see people. And the fact that everyone has learned how to drag the winter out into January, February, even March sometimes, you know, I'm hoping for some action here.
Yeah.
But I'm not positive we're going to get the drop the brick on a gas pedal and go. But if there's a place to wish and hope, I guess it's Disney World. So we'll wish and hope that we get some action here while being somewhat pessimistic about it.
No, I think you're being, again, very realistic, and I'm going to use that term a lot today because your column yesterday on Post Sports Plus, which Yankees fans or MLB fans, if you haven't read yet, go read it. Joel, and subscribe to the Post Sports Plus because Joel obviously has a ton of great info there. And the big thing to talk about was Hal Steinbrenner. And we saw his comments a couple weeks ago when he talked to reporters for the first time about payroll, about the revenue. And, Yankees fans take it off. And it just created a flurry of content and news and whatnot. But really all we got, Joel, was a point of a realistic point where the owner of the New York Yankees is saying to Yankees fans, look, we spend a lot of money, but there needs to be a realism here about I cannot spend what a Steve Cohen or the people at the Dodgers spend every year because I don't have that influx of cash. So I just wanted to start there with your thoughts on what Hal was saying and what really is to be expected from the Yankees in terms of payroll this offseason.
Yeah, well, there's a lot there, Ryan, and thank you for mentioning the column and telling people to go to it because obviously that will probably have a lot more nuance than I'll be able to bring here. But, the one thing that gets invoked a lot is, oh, this is what George would have done. But George didn't compete with Steve Cohen. He competed with the Wilpons, who just didn't even try. Like, the Wilpons pretty much had a rule not to even go after free agents. The Yankees might, because they were like, oh, we're not going to win anyway. Well, clearly that's not Steve Cohen's pocket or mindset. He's I want the piece of art, I'll go get it kind of guy. And prior to the Guggenheim's, partners owning the Dodgers, they were owned by Frank McCourt, who was literally in bankruptcy. He was using the Dodgers as his ATM to pay for everything else in his life. So the Dodgers weren't a factor. So if the Yankees wanted the player, aside from a period there where the Red Sox bulked up and said, no, we'll compete with you also. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
The Yankees essentially got the players they want. So I think when people invoke George, he played in a different forum than his son is playing in. His son is supporting. Look, I go through this. We've done it on this thing. It's in the column. I'll try to do it as quick as possible. Garrett Cole, at the moment he signed, it's the most expensive pitching deal in history. At the moment they trade for Giancarlo Stanton, I believe until Rafael Devers was acquired, it's the most money ever moved in a trade. 10 years, $270 million. Just as A-Rod's 10-year contract was ending, and they said, we'll never do a 10-year contract again. They took on 10 years of Giancarlo Stanton at $270 million. Carlos Rodon, 11th highest free agent pitching contract of all time. Max Fried, number one for starting pitcher. Aaron Judge, per annum, at this time it was signed per annum, largest ever for a position player. Like, at some point, it's always just going to be, well, you got to get Kyle Tucker. And it's like, okay, they got Kyle Tucker. Well, now you got to go get Tarek Skubal next season. And the answer is always going to be the next guy.
Right.
And quite frankly, the Yankees got eliminated by the Blue Jays for a variety of reasons. The biggest is like Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, and Giancarlo Stanton, three of their highest paid players, played poorly in that series. And would one more expensive guy have solved everything? I'm not here to save Hal Steinbrenner money. I'd just as soon cover stars. Keep them coming. You want to make an argument that the Yankees should be sold to somebody who could compete with Cone and Guggenheim at that level. And by the way, Rogers Communication,
Yeah.
which owns the Blue Jays, which probably has more money than both Guggenheim and Cone. And we see the Blue Jays now are off and running, and they might be the top salary in the AL East. I don't think the Yankees have lost the last few years in the postseason because they didn't do the one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I would argue, like, look, they offered over $1 billion to Yamamoto and Soto. Yamamoto goes to the Dodgers because Los Angeles is way closer to Japan. The games are on in the morning there. There were already Otani there. He wanted to do that. Like, even Steve Cohen, who offered Yamamoto more, was willing to offer more, can't take the Pacific Ocean and put it in the Atlantic Ocean, right? And then the Yankees did offer $750 million to Soto. And Steve Cohen went to whatever the number was, Steve Cohen was going to go higher.
Right.
And so at some point, it's $1 billion offered. And I think the best thing that happened to the current state of the Yankees is they lost out on Soto because it did give them the ability to be more maneuverable. And I thought they were a better team last year than the team that actually went to the World Series. I thought they were it was a more well-rounded team, and they lost earlier in the playoffs. But I think Hal, as opposed to many owners, talks publicly a few times a year. And most guys don't do that. And I give him some credit for doing it. And I give him some credit for transparency to say, ideally, this is where I'd like to be with payroll. You know what? He hasn't been there. He's been over 300 million these last few years. Should it be, and let's not forget, 315 million is over 60 million in tax.
Right.
So it's kind of edging up towards $400 million commitment for just the payroll. You could probably double that for operations and whatever else they do to do everything they do because it's a New York style team. Again, I'm not here with a tin cup for Hal Steinbrenner and his family. You want to make a case he should sell the team because now if you're going to own a team, you need to be Guggenheim, Rogers, Steve Cohen, Rich. I got it. But even within that, I don't think the Yankees are not getting to the Canyon of Heroes because of the last contract they didn't sign. And that my suspicion is this offseason, he'll talk about 300 million and they'll still be up at 310 or in that area. And they'll put a team on the field because their track record is to put a team on the field good enough to at least win 90 plus games and get to the playoffs. Will they again? I mean, one of these years, they're not going to be above 500. They're going to, whatever. The Mets last year got Soto. They bulked up. They were coming off the LCS. Hey, they finally got it right. Owner, GM, manager, they're the hot team in New York. Watch out, Yankees. 12 months later, we're like, who wants to take the Met money? So, like, be careful. Like, the Yankees are pretty consistently good, and they haven't gotten the chip for a long time. And the lack of the chip is angering people. My last thing, though, about the chip, because I was thinking about this watching an NFL game recently. Fans are like, hey, if the Yankees just won another championship, I'd get off their back. No, you won't. I watched the Eagles get booed off the field the other day. Booed off the field. They won their Super Bowl 11 months ago. Right? Like, it's always going to be about the season in front of you, and no one's going to give a shit about last season. But one of these years, the Yankees are going to have to get the chip to at least get the chip. But Ryan, I continue to believe that it has not been a strictly financial decision
Right.
that has kept them from getting the chip, and that they do spend plenty of money.
Is there a realistic part to this while you're describing everything that's so true about how the Yankees have approached recent offseason signings? Is there a long-term play here from Hal? And I think you highlighted it a little bit with there's potential for the CBA that obviously looks like it's going to expire and there could be a lockout, that there will be now financial restrictions on MLB teams on how much they can spend, and is Hal playing the long game there?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think, like, because whatever rules come in, and I'll believe that there's a salary cap in Major League Baseball when there's a salary cap in Major League Baseball. I feel like we'd miss so much time, and it would be such a Pyrrhic victory because we destroy so much to do it. But maybe we'll get it. Let's play the game, you and me, Ryan, here. There is a salary cap. It's not going to be a year one thing. There's going to have to be some grandfathering of it in because take the Yankees out of it. The Dodgers are over 400 million. Like if suddenly you can't be over say 250, how would the Dodgers get there in a year? So I I do think there's grandfathering. I think one of the things that Hal could believe, even if he wanted to do another big contract, is after this season, Grisham, LeMahieu come off the books. After the next season, Stanton comes off the books. After that season, Fried, Rodon come off the books. So
Cole
there
and Rodon,
begins to
right?
be
Cole and Rodon, not Freed,
Cole
right?
Rodon. Why I say
Yes.
Fried?
Yeah, yeah.
So at that point, Fried and Judge are the only guys who you're kind of extended with for a long while. And now, but the reality is, you're the Yankees, and you're always going to be like, add the next guy who's going to be part of it. But they could do that. To me, they could do that if they want to. The question is, does Hal want to? And do they actually believe they need to? Or do they believe that there's the structure of a very, very strong team
Mm.
here that needs augmenting and not going to the top of the market?
I think that's a good way to put it. And the big question that remains here for this Yankees offseason to start is, what do they do with Cody Bellinger? Because I think there is a huge variance of what does he get long term? Are there a lot of other teams in the bidding for Cody Bellinger? Are the Yankees just bidding against themselves at a certain point? But also at the same time, what's the cost for a guy who's going to be 30? And I don't know, Joel. I get concerned when you start getting into 5, 6, 7 year deals for a guy who's going to be 30 years old and has dealt with back injuries before. Like we've seen him miss games this year back with nursing a back injury. And I know he has the position versatility, but there becomes a certain point in time where his athleticism will decline. It just happens when you hit your 30s. Like you're not the same athlete as you were in your 20s. I get concerned that the Yankees are going to tie themselves up into another DJ LeMahieu like contract with a Cody Bellinger. Could you potentially see them trying to negotiate less years with more AAV for a Cody Bellinger return?
Yeah, you're asking all the right questions, I think, Ryan. And yet I feel like even if you're a Yankee fan who feels that way, as you are, the day he signs for 6 years someplace else, the feeling will be, they blew it, right? Like if he does it, and maybe not for you, but like
Yeah.
that generalized, Hal again. I think there's a very strong market for Cody Bellinger. He's a very talented player, but there is, and I wrote about this over the weekend, there is question about what that means. I think you know this because in shows at this time last year, I was screaming, the Yankees got to go get Cody Bellinger
Yeah.
in a trade. I loved Cody Bellinger. Then I watched him play for a year, and I like it even more. Like, I think he is got five tools. And I think that the most important thing that comes with five tools is knowing how to use them because you have a high baseball IQ, pretty good motor, get on the field. Like, he was everything you want. And in a way, if he goes, you've now replicated Soto, right? You traded for Soto, had him for a year, had great results, let him go. You had Bellinger you traded for. Are you going to let him walk out? Maybe also to the Mets, for all we know. If they don't really solve center field and or first base, he's a guy who could go there, which would be incredible. Again, considering what used to be the Wilponian way of doing things, is that guy would walk out the door. The question on Bellinger that comes up over and over and over again, Ryan, is about volatility of result. Like if you go to his WAR, there's highs and lows and highs and lows. And last year was a high again. And that volatility, I went and I wrote about this if you saw it, is if you try to find somebody like that, it's a lot like Jacoby Ellsbury, who also was a free agent after age 29. Go look at Jacoby Ellsbury. There's 6 WAR, there's 2 WAR, there's 5 something WAR. There's one something, and it was bounce, bounce, strong year. The Yankees signed him for 7 at 153, and as we know, that was a disaster. Now, I don't think Cody Bellinger, I think Cody Bellinger loves baseball. I didn't think Jacoby Ellsbury loved baseball, and I would not give long-term money to somebody who doesn't burn to play. That's a mistake, and I think he burns to play. It's one of the questions I wonder about Kyle Tucker. Does Kyle Tucker burn to play? I know Cody Bellinger burns to play. I think there's some questions about the motor and the desires on somebody like Tucker that have been expressed to me by organizations. But Bellinger's also played in the three largest markets you can play in: Chicago, at Los Angeles, and New York. We know that's not going to bother him.
Nope.
He's excelled in all three places. I love the player. I would stretch somewhat for him.
Okay.
But does stretch mean 5 at 110, or does stretch mean 7 at 210? Like, that's $100 million delta. And you could tell me, like, I I just did this on one of the videos we did, Ryan, for the Post.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that an executive said to me recently, and it's been talked about before with me, that's I love the saying, is you never know who finishes second for a player. Like, it doesn't matter if everyone offers 5 at 110. That's the generally accepted number for Cody Bellinger. If someone offers 7 at 210, that's what wins. And it doesn't matter that the Yankees kind of got it right in the sense that everyone was in this place and one team decided we have to have them, or we don't know how to read the market. Like, most people I talk to think Pete Alonso will be kept to 3 or 4 years. If some team out there says, I need Pete Alonso, and gives him 6 years, then that we'll never know who finished second.
Right.
That will be the only thing that matters. They're both Scott Boras clients. Boras has already gotten more for like Dylan Cease than I saw coming. Even with deferrals, it was a larger deal than I saw. There's been a lot of times over the years where that, like, Scott knows how to play the market, and it only takes one. It only takes one. It doesn't matter what consensus is. What matters is there a team out there that looks at Cody Bellinger and says, I don't see fluctuation. I see a guy who's gotten married, who's matured, who, since he's gone to Chicago, has been a really exceptional player again. Maybe not MVP 2019 Dodger Cody Bellinger, but a really good player. I think that. And I would extend a little for it, but I understand the trepidation in the industry, the LeMahieu trepidation in the industry about, like, age and athleticism and fluctuating previous stuff. He does have a somewhat complicated swing. So I get it. I happen to really appreciate this player.
Right. You're willing to look past those, let's say, volatility and what could be uncertain, but for the player you believe in, that, like, hey, I believe in what his process is, what his results are currently. Like, I believe that player can still be valuable for you.
So I would think of it like this, Ryan. What do I think his floor is for the next 5 years? I think his floor is, I don't think he's that guy who the Dodgers decided to non-tender. I think that was a different guy emotionally. I think it was a different guy physically. I think this player has got it going on now in his life and in how he approaches baseball. He went to a hitting factory last year that really seemed to help him, a place in Atlanta. He seems much more stable, married, child, etc., off the field. So I think the floor is, say, like a 2-win player, which is, if you think a win is worth like $8 to $10 million, it should be 16 to 20 a year. And I think he's probably got a chance in the next 5 years to have multiple 4 or 5 win seasons. So if the number is in the 20 to 25 area for 5 or 6 years, I think that's a legit deal for the guy.
Okay.
I do. But I understand the trepidation. And the one breadcrumb, and there's not many that are dropped these days around here, is Brian Cashman did mention that the team has gotten very left-handed.
I was going to follow up with this. So does the Trent Grisham qualifying offer, $22 million, does that make the Yankees, like, say, you know what, Bellinger, we love you, but, like, we are extremely left-handed now where that Trent Grisham is coming back on a 1-year deal. And we do have Dominguez, who's a switch-hitting outfielder, but Judge is the righty. It's McMahon, it's Jazz, it's Ben Rice, Austin
Wells.
Wells. Like, it's a lot of left-handed hitters in this lineup. I know
Yes.
he acknowledged he needs to get balance. Does Bellinger provide balance, even though he does hit left on left, which is a key quality I think you really, really like?
Again, like everything you could like about a baseball player, Cody Bellinger showed last year.
Right.
Like, not afraid of a big moment, hit left on left. He was really good. Again, I would extend a little for him. I don't think it was just a walk-year magic thing. But hypothetically, if you were thinking, what does Cody Bellinger look like? It probably looks a lot like Stephen Kwan. Like, is that the kind of player you could trade for in this marketplace? And he suddenly is such an obvious leadoff hitter. He's arguably even a better left field defender than Bellinger. And Bellinger was the best the Yankees have had by a lot since Brett Gardner.
Yeah.
So like you get those two qualities, you lose some power. The cost in dollars, though, you're going to have to give up real stuff if you're going to get Kwan. But like that kind of player, if that's the next step down to it, but he's left-handed also.
He's also left-handed, which is why I find it curious.
So are they telling us that it's a righty bat? And if you start playing that game and you start playing, hey, they'd like to go in the season, they've been, for luxury tax purposes, I think between like 315 and 320 the last two seasons, which means you want to go into the season projected at about 310. So in July, you could get to 315 with some more trades. It would mean they have, as of this moment, let's say they were willing to go to 310. It's about 25 to 30 million maybe to spend still. Now, could they trade Luis Gil? Maybe. Could they trade Jazz? Maybe. Could they trade Camilo Doval? Maybe. Those are all guys who make some money, and they could therefore. But the moment you trade one of those guys, like you trade Jazz, you need a second base.
Yeah, you need second baseman.
You trade Hill at a point where you don't know who your April rotation is already with Rodon and Cole down. You have what? If you trade Doval, you're still going to need more guys. You already need more guys to pitch the 6th, 7th, and 8th innings in front of Bednar. So if you got 30 to spend, it would be hard to do 25 on Bellinger. And then also feel like we're going to get relievers. So are they telling us, and again, I'm just making up names here. I just want to always be clear that the Yankees are not handing out pieces of paper. These are things. But are they like, hey, can we sign back Ahmad Rosario to help us with a righty bat in the infield? Go look at his track record. He's going to hit lefties almost as well as anyone in the sport who's not like Judge, etc. He's in that next tier down. And Lane Thomas kind of player. None of it will cost you a lot. They're both. Now, Lane Thomas was hurt last year, and he could be shot. He's a player I like a lot, so I bring it up. But based on last year, he was dealing with plantar fasciitis, and he was a bad baseball player last year. But if you think that's a correctable thing and there's still a lot there, you're like, hey, can we do Rosario and like Lane Thomas? I'm just using two names.
Yeah.
Feel like two extra right-hand bats. And because we believe we have Aaron Judge, we have Giancarlo Stanton, we have Jazz Chisholm, we have Austin Wells, who we think it will hit 25 homers. We have Ben Rice, who we think might be a version of Kyle Schwarber light,
right?
Who's about to play first base. We don't need necessarily, look at the Blue Jay model that actually beat them in both the AL East and in the playoffs last year. It was a lot of Davis Schneider, Addison Barger, Ernie Clement, really good players who were doing it around one real superstar in Guerrero.
Yep.
So can you make the group long and talented in that way as a positional group? I think that is possible, and that they're just seeing on Bellinger. I think the Yankees are in wait and see and say, hey, if it is 5 at 110, yes. But if it's closer to 7 at 210, no. And now we're going to plan B, which is maybe Kwan or a couple of really good supplementary righty bats around what are already entrenched stars. I would think I'm not in their room. I don't see their dry board, but I've covered the team a long time. And I know that this group has got a plan A and a B and a C.
Yep.
and a D. And then it's like, okay, now we haven't spent a lot of money on two position players. Who's the really good reliever? Like, can we take something and go trade? We could trade a little more. Trade with Kansas City for Carlos Estevez, who makes like $12 million. Like, now we could do that because and someplace in plan G or H or I are all kinds of stuff. I do think plan A is Cody Bellinger, but at their price.
At their price, but then it also, like you said, still would limit them just because of that
It
310,
would, it would,
315 mark, right?
it again, the irony, if I'm using the word right here, is it would be like if they had signed Soto last year.
Yeah.
Because that's why I said they would have been worse off with Soto. Soto's a Hall of Famer. He's a great player. But with Soto, they would have then had to go cheap for a starting pitcher, cheap for and all the other stuff. And how the Yankees were constructed last year, just the reality is they were better off with Max Fried than Juan Soto.
Yeah.
Because Cole gets hurt.
Yep.
Right? Like and they desperately needed that thing. And so without Soto, they were able to do a lot of things. I think with Bellinger, they're going to be limited in what else they do. Unless they say Bellinger gives us another lefty bat, Chisholm is going to make about, say, $10 to $11 million in arbitration. Now we could take Chisholm, trade him, get a little less left-handed, and use him to answer some other questions, starting pitcher, reliever, whatever. Because to me, if you're not going to sign Chisholm long-term and he's a free agent after the next season, after the 26th season, you have to at least entertain the idea of what would it look like. Without Bellinger, it's harder to trade Chisholm.
Yeah,
because then you're starting to bleed multiple lefty bats.
It's fascinating.
And ultimately, the Yankees should be heavily left-handed because of where they play.
Because of where they play, which is why I thought it was fascinating that Cashman did give that little breadcrumb last night of how incredibly left-handed they are. Real quick on the Grisham thing. Were the Yankees people surprised that he accepted the qualifying offer? Because this all feels like, Joel, maybe I'm crazy. This all feels like he accepted the qualifying offer at $20+ million. It's like, that just locked them Yankees in for $20+ million to Trent Grisham. And it's like, I don't know if he's going to repeat that season. Is he going to be batting leadoff for us? And you're talking about a player who we don't love athletically wise, playing center field. We know he plays it well, but there's also the peripheral of laziness sometimes or dogging it. And you're like, is he going to repeat that? Is he going to be 2024 Trent Grisham, or is he going to be 2025 Trent Grisham? So that's where, like, are they surprised that he accepted the qualifying offer? Because it does affect what their plans have been for this offseason.
Well, it's not a player I love from doing the shows with me. And to your point about some stuff is, this is a guy, he hit what, like 34, 35 homers. I think he hit 9 doubles, right? And that isn't just because the defense played deep. It's because he turned a lot of doubles into singles with the way he plays the game. There were more doubles there to be had. But I will say, I think the Yankees had their eyes wide open. They went into this thinking it was a 50-50 proposition if he would take it or not. So they were not, this narrative that they were caught off guard. I mean, there was real, like Grisham had to think, I'm going to go out into this marketplace. If I kill it, is that 3 at 45? If I don't kill it, is that 2 at 35?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a short 22. I don't know what the rules are for next offseason. If I go and kill it again, I'm going to beat in total whatever it is. He actually is liked in the clubhouse and liked being a Yankee. And on a 1-year contract, again, if you're thinking WAR is between 8 and 10, one WAR is between 8 and 10 million. Then even in a bad year, he's going to essentially be about a 2 WAR player. So like he is like on the low end of WAR, it's still, I'm qualifying it at 8 million. He's still a 16 million-ish dollar player, and he could be a free agent. And it's always cost more to have a guy for 1 year who's talented than to have him for multi-years, where you then spread out to make the lower annual value, because like we're giving you years, so the value each year is going to go down a little bit. It's not I don't love the player, But that is like on a 1 year deal, it's not that far off of what he should get. Again, not to the eye and not to me, but as like a war thing, he wasn't that far off of Bellinger last year.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of like again, not to the eye, but the numbers might suggest that he's a much better center fielder than Bellinger. So like he's a real center fielder. The Yankees believe in the underlying stuff to suggest like he swung at strikes at such a higher percentage. He hit it hard. He knows what a ball and a strike are. That is going to translate again. I think he's a bigger risk than Bellinger, but it's only a 1 year risk. You're done with it. He also, with his permission, could be traded, and as of June 15th, they could trade him without his permission. So, like, they might not even be married to the guy. Like, if they re-sign Bellinger, can they go to Grisham and say, "Hey, man, we are going to have 4 outfielders again because we're not putting Dominguez in the minor leagues. We can trade you to Team X. You're going to go into free agency. Do you want to get 500 plate appearances? If you say yes to a trade, we can get you to Team X. You're going to be their 500 to 600 plate appearance center fielder. Do you want that?" And so I I think the Yankees played arbitrage. Like what's the value of the player?
Right.
On the day they give him the qualifying offer, they can't know if they're signing Bellinger or not.
Right.
So if they don't qualify Grisham, think about the level of desperation they have right now on Bellinger.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they would have,
So
but they would also
I
have
get
more
it.
room financially to play with, though, is what I'm saying. So
Correct.
it goes
But
it goes
but
into,
if they valued Bellinger at a certain number just because they have more money, I'm not sure that means like, okay, we have more money. Now we're going to do 7 at 210.
right. No,
Well, you know what I
I know
mean?
this.
Like they're
I
going
hear
to
you.
stick to their valuation.
They're going to stick to their valuation, but then it also brings up my next point of there's a guy named Imai coming from Japan who is a free agent, and it's like, could you imagine if they would have gotten a Bellinger and an Imai? Like that would have been an incredible offseason for the Yankees because it
Or it
goes.
wouldn't have been. Have you ever seen Imai lift his arm?
We haven't. I haven't. But also the
I
same.
mean, like we don't know that.
We don't.
We it's all projectable,
Correct.
and we don't
But it goes to the
know.
larger point about the starting rotation and the concerns
Imai
that I
is the
have.
backup quarterback. We haven't seen him, so we're gonna
That's
imagine.
right.
And by the
That's
way,
right.
and it's a period of time right now where obviously Japanese players, especially on the Dodgers, are so special that it feels there's a fervor for it, right? And I think Yankee fans are frustrated. Hey, there was that time, Matsui, Arabu, Tanaka, where they dominated the market. Again, I would suggest it was a time where the Dodgers were not owned by the Guggenheims, right? The Mets were not owned by Steve Cohn. It's a different forum, and I do think Japanese players will gravitate to the West Coast, closer to home, better start times for their family back home to watch games, etc. So the Dodgers have a huge advantage, and good for them. They press the advantage. Oh, and Ohtani changes everything. They're so big in Japan because Ohtani's so big. But it is tougher to get in the market. But I don't think you should get in a market just to do that. Like it's the right player. I remember 2 years ago when Murakami was first talked about. I'm telling you, if we did our show then, it would be like, hey, whenever that guy becomes a free agent, the Yankees better go get that guy.
Yeah.
Now, do you even hear his name?
No.
Like it's funny. It's like I talk to a lot of people, and there are a lot of people like worried about that guy's like strikeout numbers, not hitting velocity in Japan where it's not like now. And then there's people like he's a great worker, he has athletic skills, whatever. He's going to learn how to hit here. He's going to be a real difference maker. Nevertheless, 2 years ago, if I would have told you Yankees weren't even going to think about it, be like, oh, that's house cheap. Why isn't he in Japan? Whatever. And so it's just the changing perception of players we don't even see play. We have differing opinions on those we just watched play 162 games.
Yes.
And then we're going to talk about the guys we haven't even seen. It's like, oh, look.
He's the next hot thing. He's the next hot thing. That's what it is.
Somebody said to me the other day, a Yankee fan like yourself said to me, the Yankees should do everything they can to get Skubal, but they shouldn't trade Cam Schlittler. And I looked at him and I went, what?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And he goes, I go, 12 months ago, you didn't even know who Cam Schlittler was. Today, the best, if you're telling me that, the Yankees traded Michael King with 2 years left for Soto. You positive this guy's going to be better even than Michael King, who's really, really good? Maybe he's a young ace. Maybe he's the next Cole. But like 12 months ago, you didn't know who the hell Cam Schlittler was. Today, like if there was an alien invasion and they said we're going to blow up the planet if you don't beat us at baseball, the guy the human race would start against the aliens is Tarek Skubal, right? Like to save humanity.
Yeah.
And you're not trading Cam Schlittler
That's
for him?
crazy. I would
That's
trade him in a heartbeat for Tariq Skubal. Come
right.
on, man.
It's like, oh, you can't trade George Lombard. I'm like, you can't.
You
Like,
can.
do you feel this is how you felt about Anthony Volpe until you saw him play baseball?
Well, the
Like,
Yankees
you
needed a
can't trade
shortstop
Anthony Volpe.
too. They needed a shortstop. I mean,
Yeah.
look,
But you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
I'm always worried about when people talk about players they haven't seen play because we're gonna have such differing opinions on the ones we have seen play.
Correct.
And so like Imai might be terrific, Ryan, or he might be Kagawa too, for all we know.
So, do you think there's actual interest in the Yankees for a player like
I
Imai?
think that's not. I don't. The Yankees have 3 very, very expensive starting pitching contracts in Rodon, Fried, and Cole. I would be surprised if there was a 4th in the offseason before Skubal becomes a free agent.
That makes sense. Then the question would be
on an unknown quantity. Again, there are people who like him a great deal, who I respect, who I talk to, and there are people who are like, I think there's a little bit of a fervor because of what happened with the Dodgers. He's good, but not that.
Yeah.
And so people talk more about him being a number 3. And there's probably, like, if you're telling me you're going to take risk on number 3, I would just try to bring Michael King back home.
Well,
because it's going to be less years or something like that.
Yeah, it's going to cost you less too.
And again, Michael King's a pitcher and a person I like a great deal. But I don't think the Yankees are going to spend a lot. I think they might get another starter. I think the Yankees, and I think this is a mistake. I think the Yankees look at it that their rotation at some point is going to become a great strength next year when they get Rodon and Cole back.
Yeah, I read into the Cashman comments last night too about that too.
I don't believe you ever get the starting rotation you believe you're going to get. Like, there's never like that full moment where all 5 guys are standing and going well for a sustained period of time. It's too fragile. It's too whatever. Now, having said that, Ryan, on this webcast a lot last year, the rotation was always the big worry I had about the Yankees, that they were one more injury away from falling off the face of the earth. They never had that injury, the one more, beyond the one where it became out. But it's not just a Cole Rodon issue for me. Max Fried pitched way more than he's ever pitched in his life last season. Schlittler and Warren pitched way more than they have. Luis Gil is a constantly injured pitcher. Ryan Yarbrough is a swing man. To me, this idea of, well, we have those 5 guys to hold the fort until Cole and Rodon come back. I would say I don't gamble. I don't have an app. I don't do any of it. But if you told me there was a bet, do the Yankees survive 6 weeks of spring training where Fried, Hill, Warren Schlittler, and Yarbrough are all healthy on March 20, whatever the thing is?
No way.
So already now you're down to what? Alan Winans? Trying to rush Elma Cruz Rodriguez. Yeah. So I would go get another starting pitcher.
Well, do they go in the trade market for that? Is because again, I hear names like Sandy Alcantara, Joe Ryan. There's guys out there. You're rumors. But
I think Miami's much more likely to trade Edward Cabrera.
I would take him in a heartbeat too.
Then yeah, it's again like that is. Is it Lombard? Is it Spencer Jones? Is it?
I'm trying to win a championship, right? That's
I get you. I would just buy it. Whatever that next level of starter is, I'm going to make up a name. I don't think they're in on this play.
Okay.
So I feel comfortable making up the name.
Yeah.
Like if you told me you could sign Merrill Kelly for like 2 years and whatever, because he's an older starter, I think he can handle New York. I think he's a legitimate number 3 starter. I think you could start him in a playoff game. And like, if I get to the point where all my starters are healthy and I'm like trying to figure it out, I'll make a trade during the season. I'll use the optionality on guys like Warren and Schlittler, who I'll probably want to slow down during the season, and I'll just wait for the next injury to happen.
Yeah,
I think they should go get a real starting
me
pitcher
too.
who fits in there. It doesn't have to be expensive and it doesn't have to be a one, but it's got to be somebody who helps you. And you imagine like this idea that like Rodon and Cole are just going to come back, and then when they come back, they're going to roll. The other thing I would think about with Rodon and Cole is you need to try to be like the Dodgers. The Dodgers could have started Ohtani on day 1 last year. They contemplated having Ohtani pitch out of the bullpen in the 2024 postseason. Think about that. And then they slow played him, and it didn't start until like, was it late May, June, whatever. I think that Rodon and Cole, especially Cole, off of Tommy John, need to be on that program, which is have arrogance that you're going to play important games starting October 1st. And you say to Cole, I'll see you June 1st. Could you start on May 1st? Sure. I'll see you June 1st. Because if I got 130 innings from you, I got to save 30 of them for the postseason.
I completely agree
Right?
with you, Joel. It's
20.
it's
So,
a smart way
and
to play.
I would slow play Rodon, who's been a heavily used starter the last 2
Yep.
seasons for that. I mean, I heard, again, I'm not here to make excuses for players. Somebody told me by the time the Yankees reached the playoffs last year, Rodon couldn't even straighten out his arm. That's how bad the chip was in the elbow. So he couldn't really throw his slider. And I give him credit. He went out there, did his best, whatever. Like Rodon is changing opinions about him in his time as a Yankee. But he needed to go get that procedure and get
Yeah.
the chip dealt
Didn't
with.
they say there was
But
even
that he
it was
was
even more to clean up
but
than they thought when they went
yeah.
in there?
Well, I think that he was just in a situation where he was a compromised starter. He
Yeah.
was able to throw the ball, but he wasn't able to, his slider is his most important pitch. Again, that is by the way, I'm not reporting anything. That's secondary. I did not hear that from Carlos Rodon or like Matt Blake or Brian Cashman. I heard it from somebody associated with the team who was an admirer of Rodon who said, I'm telling you, this guy gutted it through the end of the year for us. So, I would give him some time. He's been heavily, for a guy who, in the early part of his career, the questions about durability, he was really durable these last 2 years. And so, because I'm talking about slow playing 2 of your main starting pitchers, because I have lack of faith in Luis Heel staying healthy, because I worry, like, Cam Schlittler might be great, or Cam Schlittler might have been a
Flash
shot in the
pan.
dark. We
Yeah.
just saw the best of Cam Schlittler,
Yeah.
or he gets hurt, or Will Warren. It's like, I would go get a starting pitcher and worry if I have too many at any point, because you know what you're not going to have? Too many.
I completely agree with you, Joel. I could not agree with you more on this exact topic.
And it
of the
doesn't have to
Yankees.
be an ace, Ryan.
No,
like
it
to
doesn't.
me, it's got to be a guy you feel good will, after 5 or 6 innings, hand with a good offense behind him and what you hope is a good bullpen, hand the ball to Aaron Boone with a chance to win the game regularly.
Right.
I mean, it would be better if you could find another. I mean, maybe you roll the dice on someone like Cabrera, who's also off injured. He's injured every year, but man, he is talented. And you're thinking, hey, with our medical staff and our pitching lab and everything, do we translate unhealthy number 3-ish starter into something else? It's going to cost you a lot to find that out.
And from a team building philosophy standpoint, like if you got a player like that into your starting rotation, you're turning what everyone is saying is a strength, is a strength, is a strength. Now you're turning it into a juggernaut. If you do get eventually to the point you hope to next year, and that's where you could be really flexible, where you could trade someone for another piece that you need to help build your team into a championship. But the fact that you can make your starting rotation that much of a weapon at the end of the year next year, that's where my thought is. And again, I don't trust the situation the Yankees are going in. Let's wrap this all up, Joel, for the winter meetings for here today on Monday. Everything I am seeing or hearing or believing and reading into with you and everyone else that out down there, it feels like the free agent signings are not going to be fast and furious. You even started this show saying that. Should we expect a bunch of trades and deals to happen during this offseason? Because that's where it seems like a lot of this noise is going around. Like players I've talked about, and I'm sure there's other names we haven't even mentioned, but it seems like the trade market could be really fast and furious. Do you believe that?
I think there'll be lots of trades made. I think what needs to happen is Schwarber needs to sign. He feels like the thing blocking the artery, right? Like that you got to clear so the blood pumps. There's so many teams that have him as either a number one priority or a top priority and don't want to move on to two, three, four, five. So like Cody Bellinger isn't signing, and Pete Alonso isn't signing, and Alex Bregman isn't signing, and Kyle Tucker isn't signing. None of these guys are signing until Schwarber signs. No one's getting traded until I know what's happening with Kyle Schwarber. Because, like, even the Reds think they have a Hail Mary chance of bringing him back home. He's from suburban Cincinnati. So if the Reds think it, and the Red Sox think it, and maybe the Mets think it, and the Phillies, who probably would move heaven and earth to make sure he doesn't leave there, thinks it, and what other 5 teams are in this? We need that to happen. I think there is some chance it happens at these meetings.
Okay.
But I'll leave you with another thing that somebody always says to me, and a veteran agent. He goes, I hate when a reporter asks me, is it close? Because there's a deal and there's not a deal. There's no close. He goes, I've been at the 1 yard line and finished the contract in 15 minutes. And I've been at the 1 yard line and never finished the contract at all. Or it took me another 3 weeks to finish it because new stuff came up. So he goes, the sense of the teams that seem to be in on Schwarber, who I talked to, say they think it's close. The definition of your close and my close differ with usage, right?
Yeah.
And so these meetings would be a lot more entertaining and trafficy and jammed with stuff if that went down in the next, say, 24. Where Monday, everyone's running out of here probably like by Wednesday afternoon. Some will, like me, will linger to Thursday. But like this market could use Kyle Schwarber to go down. And if he did, then I think that flurry comes. If not, I think what happens is we all leave here, and then next week, because like I think what's happening right now is everybody is trying to, forgive the mixed message metaphor of sports here, pushing the puck towards the goal. And it's in front of the goal, but they don't want to shoot yet because they got to know about other stuff and the actual price on things. Like, even for example, the Phillies aren't hiding it. Priority one is to re-sign Schwarber. But if they don't, think about the tectonic plates that move. Maybe they suddenly are big on Alonso.
Yep.
As a replacement, or they're looking in the trade market, or they're, hey, let's spend a lot more money now on our X. So, and it's the Phillies, a top of the market, all-in veteran team run by Dave Dombrowski and owned by John Middleton. So like that's gotta happen. Like again, I have a free agent. I don't want that free agent to sign unless if Kyle Schwarber goes someplace else. Phillies have a lot of money, man. And it isn't like if the Phillies lose Kyle Schwarber, they're going to go, well, that's it for 2026. They're going to be like, okay, what can we do? Can we sign Alex Bregman and trade Alec Boehm for the thing we need? Can we hurt the Mets by signing Alonso and putting him at first, put Harper back in the outfield? Now we'll go find a different kind of DH, or we make Alonso the DH and I'll go find it out. So like when you have big market teams like the Phillies and Mets and Yankees and like stuff like that, like no agent wants to move until he knows who has what to spend. And to me, the chess piece is Schwarber. Even more, like Kyle Tucker's going to get double whatever Schwarber gets, maybe more than that. And yet there's fewer teams there. And it's a very specific taste for that kind of level of contract, which is going to be at least 300 plus million and probably will start with a 4. And so therefore it's fewer.
Yeah.
And so therefore he's not holding up the market. Schwarber is holding up the market. And so as a junkie for wanting news, I'm hoping he goes down so that the dam bursts and we move.
Joel Sherman, we appreciate you, man. I could ask you a billion more questions about the Yankees, but I appreciate all the time.
We got a lot of off season to go.
I know, and I appreciate you giving us some time there at the winter meetings. Fans, pay attention to Joel's coverage all throughout this week. There's going to be a ton of things I'm sure he's going to report on and discuss, and be more than happy to give us video content for, as always. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button on the New York Pro Sports YouTube channel. Follow Joel all along at the winter meetings, and we'll catch you next time, Joel, and I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about then.
All right, Ryan, all the best.